Welcome to the Real Estate Wire, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 2 headlines. Is it getting ready to be 2008 all over again? We're also going to be talking about the interest rate roller coaster. We're going to be dealing with our hot or not. And today, we got a special guest. We got Brian Athey from Congressional Acquisitions. Welcome to the Real Estate Wire, folks. What's going on, everybody? My name is Dan, the Realtor, real estate agent with Keller Williams Capital Properties.
Mortgage Coach Marcus. You do with the pump fake, hey.
I like it.
And today we got a special guest. We got Brian Athey from Congressional Acquisitions. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, happy to be here, man. Pumped to be here. Fellow Washington Commanders fan. I love the hat, you know. So no, I'm pumped to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. So introduce yourself, man. Tell everybody about how your dopeness. Because when we started the podcast, Brian was like, "Yo, man, let me know when you want me to jump on," and I was like, What?
Yeah. Hey, listen, I love the energy, man. Like I'm sitting here and I'm like, I got to bring my energy because you certainly have it. So my name is Brian. I own Congressional Capital, which is a real estate hard money lending company. So we loan money to people who buy and flip houses, do generally 2 to 20 unit condo and apartment projects and commercial projects in DC. I've been fortunate to have a bunch of really great borrowers over the years. You know, a lot of people that used to be contractors and decided to go out on their own and develop real estate on their own. I've been able to help them. I'm a lawyer by background, and but I've developed extensively. I've developed over 60 small multifamily buildings in Washington.
Really?
Yeah, mainly like 8 to 30 unit stuff these days. But I've done plenty of house flips and all manner of stuff. Do a lot of rental stuff these days. Do a lot of voucher housing, which I love. We do brand new buildings and rent them to program tenants, which I'm really proud of. So they're living in like high quality housing in neighborhoods that often don't provide that, unfortunately. And then I'm on the board of a local bank, Old Dominion National Bank, which has grown very significantly since I got involved. I think we're like $250 million in assets when I started, and now we're just crossing $1 billion, which I'm proud of.
That's
so
great.
Got a great team there. And we have the acquisitions business. We buy real estate direct from people in the city. And I've lived here my whole life. So huge Redskin Commander fan and local. Got 3 little kids and a really smart wife who does embedded health clinics in DC at DC housing projects, trying to help the underserved have better health. That's my deal.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it, man. I'm sure there's more.
Like
Talk about lazy. Like,
yeah, totally.
We need to give this show to him because I don't feel like I'm qualified to do
No.
Me and Brian met, man. We met a long time ago on a probate deal. Because if you know, I do a lot of probate real estate, and I think you called me or your agent called me. Somebody called me, and it was like and I was like, man, who is this? Because I'm like, this guy like a country accent and like real laid back and So I didn't even think he was serious. And then, because he's so chill, like.
Then he found out I'm not laid back. I just like present that way. Yeah, I'm a fucking intense as shit. My wife's like, you ain't laid back. Yeah.
No, not at all. Like, you're super intense, but like it worked because you got like a laid back vibe, but like a very intense energy, which I think really, really works for you. So yeah, man, let's get into the top 2 headlines.
But before.
But wait, there's more.
There is more because you said that this guy with this accent, the way that he spoke, right? Like, this country dude, right?
Yeah.
So you're from Haymarket.
I'm from Haymarket, Virginia.
So
that's
listen,
right.
I gotta give a little shout out.
But you ain't got no Haymarket accent. You ain't got no southern accent.
We sound alike. We look alike.
You do not sound alike.
Yeah,
you do not look alike.
We're both smooth as silk. That's how we bring it.
But see, the Gossams Hardware right in the top of Haymarket, like they tore it all down. So I'm about to educate you real quick. So Gossams Hardware used to have the best chicken gizzards and whatnot in there, and the Gossam family owned the hardware store everywhere, the grocery store. My dad he grew up on Old Carolina Road, right on 55.
Yep, I know Old Carolina Road. That's awesome.
And my mom is from Marshall. So
wow, how about this? When we were kids, the nearest grocery store was 20 minutes away in Manassas, right? There was no groceries anywhere. Like you had to get in the car and roll. And if it was snowing or something, you were like going down to like the 7-Eleven or before the 7-Eleven, the gas station. I had 2 kids on my bus route who had no running water.
Oh, really?
I mean, it was country out there, man.
What, you had like a well or something?
They had a fucking outhouse and the whole thing.
Yeah,
those guys
had to use a bathroom with.
You grew up with an outhouse?
No.
Two people on my bus did, man. Haymarket was country, but country back then. But good, I grew up, we lived on the golf course at Evergreen for a while.
Okay.
And then we moved to Mountain Road, lived on the foot of Bull Run Mountain, so it was beautiful out there.
So you got to come out there and smell some fresh air and green grass and get some
I'm used to the toxic.
Do you remember the Christmas store right on 29?
Yes, I do. Yeah, you're bringing it back right now.
And the Iron Mill and all that.
Yeah, you're bringing it back. The Gossams hardware pull was a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
That was some of the best, and the spiciest ginger ale I ever tasted was
really?
I bought it out of that store.
And now you live in Fauquier County, right?
Yep.
And my mom and sister live out there, so that's cool. My mom lives in Old Town Warrenton. Yeah, we got connections, man.
GA?
Yeah.
Family reunion in here.
Well, Brian's going to throw you some deals. You can throw Brian some deals.
Damn right.
They're coming.
It's going to be dope. And then also I was talking about, Real Estate Wild Card. So we're going to be doing a home buying seminar with Brian Athey and Allied Title. We're going to figure out all the details.
Yeah, I'm also involved in Allied Title, which is the fastest growing title company on the East Coast. And my partners there are really forward thinking, awesome at marketing. We got the gear on here.
Yeah, I rep my Always Settle.
That's right. And you need closure because everybody needs closure. Right? I think it's the greatest one ever. Oh, you need gear. You're getting gear.
I don't know if they got your size.
Yeah, they got it. They got it. And we'll bring it.
Oh, yeah. I brought it. I brought
it. But it's
yours 2T. You'll snap in the middle between legs.
Wow.
Hey, that's the Allied Title thing is close anywhere, anytime. So like they'll come to anywhere, right?
What states?
They would roll in here. Pennsylvania down to Florida, and then in Texas now. So
sweet.
Yeah, so it's exciting, fun group of people.
Always good to have.
So when are we doing the home buying seminar?
We got to work it. I want to do it. Honestly, I want to do it in February.
Yeah.
I just want to get like the details because we got the title company, we got the lender. Maybe want to get like a home inspector just so we can give like some real good information.
Great idea.
Then we're gonna do video I'm always a video guy, so we're gonna do some video. I was thinking about even doing like a band. My first one I did a band because I like music.
Yeah.
So I like bringing like a band that can do like something small. With keys and then set up so we'll talk about it, but I wanted to be dope with little drinky drink, you know what I'm saying, some tea for Brian,
that's right,
some other stuff for the rest of us,
coffee, water.
And I think the key for the new home buyers is to kind of think more like developers. When they look at interest rates, look, you can refinance in 2 years, 3 years. Most developers, when we buy real estate, we have shorter term loans and we refinance into something when we stabilize it. And now you just got to kind of look at it like, hey, this is a blip in time, and in a couple of years, the Fed will rip the rates down if the economy's weak, and you can refi. Don't you think?
Absolutely. How'd you get into the hard money side of things?
So actually, my father was a developer. He was first generation developer. So in the 80s, he started doing land development, and then a little bit of hard money after that downturn. And so I kind of had it in the back of my head. And then in 2004, my father died real suddenly in 2005 at 54. But he and a friend had started a new hard money company. They'd done one deal before he passed, and that friend, who was an awesome guy, actually a Warrenton guy, kept it going for a while until eventually bought my mother out. But I learned kind of some from him.
Yeah.
And then when the timing was right, like in 2010, I started hearing about people flipping houses and the market coming back, but there wasn't enough capital. Mm-hmm. I was actually at a wedding, and a dude was like drunk, and he was bragging about how much money he was making flipping houses. And I was like, if this cat's making all this money, I need to stop with this law practice stuff and like get in the game more. So I started doing January of 2011. This is actually a good story about being an entrepreneur. A guy called me and he said, hey, I need a hard money loan. I have 9 projects going on, and like, I need a hard money loan. Do you know anybody? So I referred him to a guy that, worked with my dad. That guy didn't call him back. So this dude calls me like 5 days later. He's like, Brian, like, I need a loan like soon. Do you know anybody else? And I was like, give me like a couple hours. And so I called a friend of my father's who's a mentor to me, and I said, hey, look, I want to start this hard money lending business. Can you help me out? Help me with access to capital. And he said, no problem. I'd love to help you. So I called this dude back, and I'm like, I'll give you a loan. And that was my first hard money loan. And then I did it. It went well. And I was still practicing law, and I was managing some family real estate stuff. Mm-hmm. Big land development project. Land development, by the way, is the worst thing ever. Don't do it. But
why is that?
It just takes forever. And like, there's an expression, land eats 3 times a day, because it's just constantly, the costs are just constantly coming at you. It takes a long time. And by the time you get things done on bigger projects, like the zoning administration can change. They can have less of an appetite for development, you can have wetlands issues. There's lots of issues.
Yeah. So where do you see the market going? Like, obviously, our demographic is going to be, home buyers, home sellers, right?
Yeah.
And then, obviously, we got a whole bunch of different types of people. I've dabbled my hand into development and doing little small rehabs here and there.
Yeah.
He's got acres of land out in VA.
West Virginia.
But from the development side, from the builder side, where do you see, like, the market heading? We just had a huge increase in interest rates, scared everybody off. A lot of people off. I still got some buyers looking, and most of my deals come from obviously probates and sellers that are going to sell no matter what. So I haven't really been super affected by it. But what do you see, like, in your crystal ball?
In terms of where the market's going?
Yeah.
The market to me is all about interest rates. So, it's interest rates. Well, it's really sort of three things: interest rates, supply, and then like consumer sentiment. Like how do people feel?
Yeah.
And I think the big problem in the last 9 months is consumer sentiment. People have jobs.
Yeah.
They have money. They have the ability to buy, but they're like, hey, am I going to be the dumb guy who gets a dumb guy in quotes?
Sure.
Who gets a loan at 7%, and then when my friends a year and a half ago were getting them at 2.5%, and go buy something that's smaller than I'd like or whatever, maybe I should just wait. I mean, the flip argument to that is like, yeah, but you're paying a bunch of money in rent to live in a place that you can't paint the wall pink if you want to without your landlord giving you a bunch of shit. Like, is that what you want to do? Your mortgage could still be let for less money, and then you can take now today I'm seeing ARM products in the 5s. There's nothing wrong with a 5.5%, 5 or 7 year ARM that you can hopefully refi down in a couple of years. So, to me, I think what we're seeing a little bit the last couple of weeks is the market's ticked up. There's been more deals, more transactions because people are getting used to the rate environment.
Yeah.
And the rates have come down some.
Yeah.
And so, like, for example, I had a house on the market for like 30 days, and we lowered the price and lowered the price. And to be honest, I think it's worth more than it's under contract for. But we got 3 offers, out of the blue this last week. It's priced well. But look, we lowered it like 2 weeks ago. Well, my point is, like, there's a new group of buyers, I think, in the market who are ready to buy, who want to be homeowners. I mean, I'm just a believer in home ownership, and I think long-term people will create wealth, that way.
Absolutely.
So
that's the message that we're sending you.
But again, it's all about rates, and I do think the Fed. I was at a lunch where I listened to the Richmond Fed chair talk, and he made it crystal clear one thing: inflation's going to get down to between 2 and 3%, one way or the other. So they'll keep ripping rates up.
So do you see a hard landing or do you see a soft landing for the economy by and large?
Every month I just look for that inflation data, man, because it's all about inflation. Like everybody's like, "How's the market going?" I'm like, They're like, "What are rates going to do?" I don't know. What's inflation going to do?
I mean, how do they? I think it's kind of tough. I mean, not to get super political, but it's kind of tough, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, to reduce inflation without also controlling spending, right? If we have a blank check and we continue, like if I have a credit card, I can't bring the rate down if I keep charging the credit card.
Yeah, totally. You pump, trillions of dollars of capital into a market.
You give everybody
gets free money for a bunch of you're going to have inflation, right?
And who made the most money during that time? The owner of, what was it? I saw it on the TikTok.
Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton.
He owns a
whole bunch of so-called luxury brands, and he's
killing it. Yeah,
quadrupled his net worth.
But he's smart. So I just read that he's actually training his daughter on how to take it over and training her to be a billionaire.
Wow.
We don't think in that large, with that mind space. Like, I want to teach my sons and daughters how to do X, Y, Z, maybe take over the family business that generates a couple $100,000 a year. This dude is saying, I'm training you to control and to be responsible for 9 zeros and some numbers in front.
Yeah. Right? I mean, listen, I think that way. Like with my own kids, I have a 9, a 7, and a 3-year-old, and I'm always thinking like, all right, like Monday, I'm going to look at a property, and I'm trying to get my 7-year-old. I want my 7-year-old to go because I think he's really interested. Yeah. Get him going. But I think it's important within your own family to like figure out what your kids are good at and try to get them in the business if you love your business like I do.
Absolutely.
In terms of where the market going, I mean, I think we'll see. I think it's going to be choppy, but I think the other thing that's interesting is the labor market's so tight and people are so well employed that's why the market's so funky, because people have money and they're like, well, I could buy because I still have a job. Now you're starting to see, people get laid off, right? And a lot of these tech companies and the like. So, that's part of the inflation thing too. So
I see a lot of those tech jobs being lost, but that's kind of that field is. What have you seen? Like, are those? They're not like the high-paying government jobs or the high-paying high-paying professional jobs. They're kind of just like tech jobs. Like I saw Amazon laid off a bunch of people. I know Facebook laid off a bunch of people. Twitter, like Elon Musk threw a bunch of those people out.
Yeah.
But a lot of those people, I guarantee a lot of those people still got other side hustles. Like if you're working for Amazon, you more than likely got a couple side hustles.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And if you work at Twitter, you throw Twitter on your resume, you're gonna get a job in 30. You're gonna have 60 people banging down your door to try and get you hired, get on their company. So are we seeing that as like affecting the economy? Like in 2008, we saw that happen where massive people lost their jobs. All these big companies went out of business.
This is not fucking 2008. I mean, because 2008 was a different thing. You had Lehman Brothers collapsing. You had banks that weren't well capitalized. You had banks that were, there was no lending for some period of time because banks were fucked. I mean, they had big problems. So after 2008, they regulated the shit out of banks. Yeah. Banks are way more well capitalized than they ever have. They have more reserves. Yeah. It's a much better system overall to avoid that kind of collapse. Mm-hmm. But will there be pain for sure?
I think it's kind of goes like to what you were saying, which is like the consumer sentiment.
Yeah, totally.
Especially in the social media age of social media, where you take one thing and it gets multiplied exponentially. Mm-hmm. People are fighting for these media companies are fighting for views. Yeah. Right. So I'm going to put the most salacious headline. Yeah, totally. And then when you read the headline, you're like, "Yo, it ain't even that bad." Totally. But most people don't read the headline; they just go. Right. Like I saw one headline today that said, "We have," and this is true actually. We had since 2016. This is the first, I think, quarter or the first time that we've seen a decrease in the median sales price of homes. Yeah. Mm. But what that article is not saying is we're back at what the average median sales price was in 2018. Yeah, yeah. So if you just read the headline, you think, oh man, we're going back to, but it's like, no, we're basically back before we got that 20% bump in overpriced homes. Yeah. Right. Now we're kind of back to where we were around 2017, 2018.
It's that balance and it's normal. It's kind of like normalizing.
Hey, listen, there's a reason there's not a positive news network, right? Because people like negative shit, right? Like, I'm always like, somebody should start a positive news network where it's just like good news all.
Yeah, we should start that, Brian. We should.
PNN. There's beautiful stories everywhere, right? About people doing great things.
PNN.
Hey,
positive news network.
That's right. Everything is so negative. I was listening to Tony Robbins one time, and he was talking about how, like, newspapers, if there's, studies that show that if a newspaper has a headline about, like, a tornado coming tomorrow, the papers, sell left and right. People like bad news, but if it's like, oh, things are going to be great, it's going to be sunny, nobody buys the fucking paper, the media loves, they love negativity. Yeah. So are they going to come out and say, if the next month the housing, data is better for us, meaning like more sales, more transactions, they're going to come out and focus on that? Probably not. I mean, right. So
find a way to
everybody wants to make this 2008, just like in the beginning of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. I would talk to investors and people that have been in real estate for a long time. They're like, this is 2008. And I'm like, I don't think so. Yeah, it wasn't. It was like it was an intense period of home buying, and it was way different than people thought.
It's kind of like when anytime, and again, not to get political, but I am very political. But like whenever any president gets into office, they automatically compare that president to Hitler. So when George Bush got in office, he's the worst thing since Hitler. Then John McCain got it. He's the worst thing since Hitler. And then poor little Mitt Romney got in. Oh, he's the worst thing since Hitler. Then Donald Trump got in. Oh, he's the worst thing since Hitler. And now they're doing the same thing with Ron DeSantis. He's the next worst. And it's like everything is the worst thing ever. So even on the real estate market, it's like anytime we hit it, because I remember at the beginning of COVID, it's going to be 2008. And then everything went up and everybody was quiet. And they're like, oh. Now, COVID's over, and they're like, oh, man, the interest rate went up. It's the worst thing since 2008. So we have these markers in our mind of whatever the worst thing is, and we have an engram, like this memory built into our collective consciousness where we go back to the worst thing that ever happened and compare the next thing to the worst thing that ever happened. And, I could imagine if we were older, we'd be like, oh, man, it's the worst thing since World War II. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, whatever the worst thing is.
It's always in a vacuum, though, right?
Yeah, it's always.
Because, like, it go hot and heavy in your face for 2 weeks, and then it dies down, and then it's gone. Yeah. I was even talking about like the earthquakes in Haiti and the tsunami that they had in like Japan like years ago. When was the last time you heard about that? But when it happened, it was like that's all they talked about. You know, and then but that's just the media. It's negative and it gets you views, clicks, likes, and all of that. But then, like we said, you need the positive because there's so much good happening in this world, which is kind of bringing it back to you, like what you're doing when you talked about the apartment complexes and the multi units and like the families that you serve.
Yeah,
like that's what life really is about. It's like serving others. I heard a quote last night. Shout out to my boy Keith James, and he said, "If you want somebody to fill your cup, look for a cup to fill."
Yeah, totally.
Right, and I was so it's all about service. You know, that's what life is about. You know, the greatest among us all is the greatest servant of all. Right. Yeah. So, like, if you're not taking the time to do for others and to look to how I can serve and bless you, like I can't be looking for to receive all the time. Gotta give.
So I wanted to ask you a couple questions, Brian,
let's do it.
because you're the OG. So one of the questions that I wanted to know is, what's the most important lesson that you've learned over your entire career? If you had to kind of bring it down, kind of condense everything into one dope lesson on top of a Snapple cap.
Look, I think mentorship's the most important thing that you can have in business. So, like, to make it broader than real estate, like I've been blessed. Like after as I talked about earlier, my father passed away young at 54, and I was really blessed and am blessed to like that his good friends are mentors to me. You know, I have a couple really close friends who are in their 70s that have been good guideposts, and I actually, I read and I consume podcasts, intensely, mostly about entrepreneurs that build businesses. To learn lessons from them, Success has clues, as people talk about, right? And so I like to learn from others. I also think, you got to build a great team, like in any business. So you got to put great people around you. The other thing is, like, I'm like a voracious networker. I love people. I like to meet people. And, I just had coffee with somebody. He's like, how can I help you? Because I was talking about helping him with certain things. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, we'll figure it out over time, right? Like, to your point earlier, if you give to others, it comes back at you eventually anyways. But
for sure.
I just like meeting new people and figuring out, like, how I can help them in some way. And, but networks matter a lot. Mentorship matters a lot. Having a great team. And then what I always talk about in business is, don't go into a business if you don't have an advantage in some way. Like, what's your advantage? You're great at probate, right? Like, that's your advantage, So what's my advantage? Generally, it's on acquisitions. We're good at acquisitions, right? And so have an advantage, With my lending business, what's my advantage there? Well, listen, I've developed extensively in Washington. I know urban infill development. I know the zoning. I know about heritage trees, and I know about when solar panels are issues and the 10-foot rule and all these other things that are like breathing to me. So when my borrowers come to me and they have a project, I can help them. I issue spot for them. I say, hey, man, what about this issue? What about that issue? So, have an advantage in whatever you're doing, or just don't do it. Like, you got to be different in some way than other folks doing what you're doing in order to be exceptional.
So I got another question for you. What time of day do you get your best work done?
That's a great question. Generally when there's quiet around, So it used to be that I'd get up really early in the morning.
You a 5 a.m. guy?
I used to be, but then I got the Whoop. I don't know if you guys have that, where it studies your sleep. Apparently the U.S. government in the 80s with their CIA agents, et cetera, started studying heart rate variability, and they found that the more your heart rate is variable, the better your performance is mentally and physically. So a lot of athletes have started wearing the Whoop and training it. And what it really teaches you in a nutshell is, like, get a good night's sleep, eat well, don't drink a lot of alcohol because it affects your sleep, etc. And so now I'm not getting up as early. But for me, it's about, like, quiet reflection. I have a house in Florida. I go there and I'm able to, like, have quiet reflection. That's generally when I get my best work done.
Your kids are, how old are your kids?
9, 7, and 3.
Oh, wow.
They're amazing ages.
Yeah?
Man. They're just incredible. I mean, it's a beautiful time.
All 3 boys?
2 boys and a little girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's the girl fall? She's the baby?
She's the baby. She turned 3 2 days ago.
So she runs the whole house.
Yeah. But it's a blast.
So Congressional Capital is her business.
Yeah, totally. It's all her. It's all their business, man. Yeah.
Last question, Brian. Other than what you're doing right now, what job or career would you love to try?
If I wasn't doing this, Probably something in politics, maybe being a governor of Virginia or something like that. You know, just because I know that way you can make a profound impact on people's lives. And like, I'm a truth teller, and I don't think there's enough truth telling in politics. Like, I think people are bullshitting way too much, not telling people the truth. You know, I always talk about if I ever did it, like it'd be all about straight talk. Like, hey, I'll just tell you the truth all the time. You know, if people ask me a question and the answer wasn't a great reflection of me, I just say, hey, this is the truth, you know. So I don't know. I think that there aren't enough earnest, honorable, hardworking people trying to help other people. And one way to do it is to kind of run for office and do it. But.
All right, guys. Well, that sums up our show for today. My name is Dan Wheeler.
Mortgage Coach Marcus.
Make sure you follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our podcast, and leave a comment also. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that notifications button. My name is Dan the Realtor. Thank you for checking out the Real Estate Wire podcast. We are out. Oh, I wasn't recording. Psych.
That's awesome.
Like, what else are you getting?
He's like, well, I gotta go.
Yeah.